Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of the comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series finale of Doom Patrol. Great series finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Okay, dude. I just finished the episode and I want to cry. It is sad. It's beautiful, but it is sad as hell. I wasn't expecting it. The final scene alone makes me want to cry. I'm like, that's it? That's how you're going to end it? Okay, I wish you ended up on a slightly more happier... We'll get into it. So, picking up where the last episode left off, we have the Doom Patrol returning from the time stream, and they're going up against Isabella, and I love that she's just so, maniacal and evil. Her eyes are going, and it's like, I'm gonna... finish you off. Haha, it's my world. It's technically how long were they inside the time stream? Time works differently. So technically they're probably only in there a couple seconds, maybe a minute or so. Because she's still floating up there being maniacal. So, and the butts are still banging at the door. So it's probably only been a couple seconds. Where it's felt like forever, everything they experienced last episode. But when it's all said and done, you have... Rouge leaving because she does what she always does. In her mind, it's I panicked and I ran, even though I'm supposed to stick around. And what does she do? She goes to what is essentially her conscience. It's Rita. She knows, Rita's right, you came to me because you knew that I would chastise you for your decision. So, hey, let's go back. Let's back the others up, We finally get an answer to the whole situation with Jane, where... Now Jane is all of the personalities at one time, so the body doesn't change. It's just they're always all active at the same time. Now, there is no more underground now. What that manifests itself looking like, I guess it's the same thing as maybe they're all on the train at the same time, because we've never seen what it looks like when one personality rides the train all the way to become the primary. We've never seen what that necessarily manifests itself as, but maybe whatever that train stop is or what that destination is, now it is all of them there all the time, chillaxing every single one of them. It's no longer just Jane, it's all of them. So she has access to all the powers all the time. So, because they're all constantly active at once. But I love that it wasn't even technically the Doom Patrol that wins the day, because they were still getting their butts handed to them because none of them had their longevity. And then the literal butts are bashing in the door, and it's oh God, what's going to happen here? But then Kiko's character ends up showing up with her boyfriend, husband. I think, yeah, they were married. So her husband, and they're singing Shapoopy. I'm wait, are we going to end this with a musical? We already had a musical episode. Are we ending this with a musical number? Technically we are, because then Immortus is no, you're not going to upstage me. This is my performance. And then you have Larry being wait a minute, isn't that a song from that that musical about us? And then, all the energy starts converging because I guess, all of them being in sync and stuff like that. The Doom Patrol leaves, the entire theater disappears, and you're wait, what? And then I'm looking wait, we're a couple minutes into the episode, and the big threat's already going. Wait, what's going on? And even Larry's wait, are we just going to really celebrate this being the end? It's yes, I'll be the wet blanket. What was that? The fact of the matter is, technically, we didn't beat Immortus because you have... Cliff being yo, we've tackled so much. We even beat essentially an all-powerful time god. It's put that on the board for us. But it's well, we didn't do it. The butts did. It's yes. No, it was because they didn't stop the butts either. It was wait, so Isabel stopped the butts by singing a song about us. So if it wasn't for us, that song would never exist. So that's on us. But it's yeah, but if it wasn't for us, the butts wouldn't have escaped either. So that's on us. And it kind of plays into this larger theme of the episode of the Doom Patrol, very much like the Legends of Tomorrow. 95% of the time, Doom Patrol is kind of 100%. At least the Legends, it was kind of 95%. A lot of times the issues would be tangentially connected, but in some cases, because it's because I remember they making fun of it in the show at one point in time, yes, for the first time ever, something going wrong in this series is not our fault. So that ends up being a whole situation. But it's yeah, the Doom Patrol and the Legends are exactly the same. They always create the next issue that they have to deal with. So We also learned that Jane's no longer Jane. She goes by Kaleidoscope. And it's like, well, why don't we call you Kay? And they're like, yeah, we like. I was like, oh, that's so beautiful. Because I was about to say, like, oh, I was immediately being like, oh, I thought she was going to say Kay, but it's like, oh, Kaleidoscope. It didn't even cross my mind. I was like, oh, you're going to, I was like, oh, you'll probably shorten it to Callie or something. Didn't even cross my mind. Of course, you just shortened it Kay, you idiot. You know? And it's just this beautiful thing of just the whole team together, having dinner together and everything. And then you also have, like, Vic showing off his tattoos that are kind of inscribed into his metal, kind of showing like, right, this new version of Cyborg, I want to showcase those who are responsible for me being who I am. And one of the tattoos represents the Doom Patrol, which is beautiful. Then Isabella shows up because she's like, oh yeah, kiss, kiss, hugs, hugs. Actually want to thank all you guys. It wouldn't have been possible without you. Me and the Butts, we've been on a tour. What was that song we were singing? Like, oh my God, it's been a hit for like 1,000 years. It's like, weren't you going an hour? Dude, hunky robot, you don't know. Handsome robot, you don't know, like, you know, forgetting how things work in a time stream. It's been forever. So I guess, and I love that just means like, yeah, she's out and about. She's just a constant thing of like, well, as long as she doesn't get like, well, I guess she's enjoying success because that's all she wanted, you know, so now she's enjoying it on a massive scale. Like, it's not only are you popular in the world, you're kind of popular for a long period of time, you being immortal and having access to the time stream, can kind of go wherever you want to all across time. It's like, it kind of fits that ego, and we kind of dealt with the butt situation. Once again, dealt with it barely under the first 10 minutes of the episode, it's dealt with, and now it's like, yeah, it's not even a threat like that the Doom Patrol has to come back through. And I love that. I love when a finale is this, where it feels like most of the finale is like, okay, we're closing up stuff, and then like a good chunk of the episode. Like the one I always think about is like Orphan Black. No spoilers if you've never seen Orphan Black, but to me, at least to my recollection, it's been a couple years, but like half that finale is like closing stuff, like just closing out the story, and the other half is like just epilogue. It feels like this is like 10% closing up the story, which the rest of the episode is too, but the rest of it feels more like epilogue. Like the other, like 90% of this episode feels like epilogue to me. Because Isabel Immortus ended up giving them all her toenail to eat to kind of rejuvenate their longevity. But by the time it was time for them to give it to Rita, she's gone. Which are like, hey, let's go drag Rita back. We've done the whole death thing before and came back, so let's do it. But Rita doesn't want that. She gathers the team for one more meeting. And it's this beautiful, poetic kind of everything coming full circle thing of everything we've been through. It's time for it to come to an end. The Doom Patrol was never meant to be our final stops. It was supposed to be a chapter in our lives for us to go out. Because for her, it's like, because of, we've never always brought out the best in each other. You know, and the fact of the matter is, in fact, we've hindered each other because we got so accustomed to having each other. This family was kind of a double-edged sword. It was beautiful. We had each other, but this experience isn't meant to last forever. It's meant for us to go out there and spread our wings. We've kind of clipped our wings, and because none of them have ever gone out, like, and anytime they have, they've always come back. And it's like, we're never going to fully heal. We're never going, like, this was all a healing process, sure, but we will continuously clash and make each other worse, and we'll just fall into our trends over and over again. We get better, then we get worse. It's like we bring out the good and bad in each other, so we need to go out there and live our lives. This isn't the stop. This is just the first chapter to the rest of our lives. And Rita wants that for everyone. It's time for the Doom Patrol to come to an end. And obviously for Larry, it's like, because, you know, for him, it's like Rita is his best friend. You're the one person that always saw me as kind of, despite me being broken, you still saw all of me and you loved me. You were the first person to really love me and accept me, and he didn't want to let her go, but he understood where she was coming from because she wants to burn her body. She wants this to be the end. And, you know, Cliff is the one kind of being the most resilient. Like, no. Like, let's go, kick butt. You know, we're the Doom Patrol. But it's like, this has to come to an end. And even Rouge, you can tell, is feeling bad about it because, once again, Rita's kind of been her conscience. And now it's like, if Rita's gone, she still just feels like she can never make up for everything. But she also feels like, as Rita said, like, oh, I'm the person you come to when, you know, I'll chastise you. But it's like, if you're gone, like, how do I know me? How can I control me? Like, how can I stop myself from slipping into the bad behaviors that I'm capable of? This is a part of me. As she told herself last episode, to her past self, it's like, I'm barely better than you are. I'm a slightly better person, but not by a large enough margin. And it's sad. Like, I knew it. I even said, like, I figured that this would have a Titans ending, which, spoilers, Titans ends the same way, where the team goes their separate ways. And so they end up having to burn Rita's body just so she can properly move on and not be bound here. But it's kind of like a farewell all around. And I think I love, like, okay, like, Cliff brings her like a mirror, because or it was either like a mirror. No, it was a makeup thing, because she was always worried about her looks. Rouge brought her like a martini. It's like, oh yeah, dry with a little bit of salt. And Larry's like, oh, good choice. She's like, no, it's not the thing I like the most in the world. And Jane is like, oh, Jane and Larry, of course you two would take this seriously. And Jane bought her a mirror. And I forgot what Larry got her. And it was like a bottle of alcohol. And she's like, is this really all you guys think of me? I love that it is this sweet moment, but in Doom Patrol fashion, there's a little levity to it. They end up burning her body. Her body's inflating. They have to poke her body, and just kind of, it expels this nauseating gas. And it's like, cool. Rita didn't even have a proper send-off in the most graceful way, but she accepted it. She was like, no, it's fine, and vanished. And you had this sweet moment of the team just watching her movie, like one particular movie. I even love Vic making s'mores, and Jane being like, wow. Kay being like, wow, something is wrong with you, dude. He was like, what? I had a taste for him. It's like, it took me a second to be like, oh yeah, that is kind of effed up that you're making s'mores after you had to burn one of your buddies, one of your dear friends. That is kind of fucked. And then watching the movie and being captivated by it, and then they're like, oh, you want to watch it again? It's like, oh, that's a splendid idea, Larry. Because they were all crying about, like, they've watched Rita's movies before, but obviously it hits a little different with her being gone now. And it's just, I'm sure Rita would love that. The fact is that you were so fascinated with one of her movies. And it's a lot. I think Rita's always wanted that, you know? Because they would always, like, chillax and watch her movies from time to time. And I don't always feel like they always glommed onto it like they did this situation. In this particular, I think they kind of have in the past, but this situation, they really glammed onto it. And by the time they wake up, you know, we had that beautiful scene between Kay and Cliff. For him, it's like he has this new opportunity, so he wants to see his child, and his hands is shaking because he knows, like, okay, like, he's hopeful that everything's going to be okay, but his Parkinson's is still an issue, and so he wants to go see his grandchild and his daughter. And Kay and him have this beautiful goodbye, which is like, wow, you're this powerful person. You could be a superhero. You could, like, you know, take over the Justice League, pants Superman. But for Kay, it's like, no, I want to live like a quiet life and just paint, because it isn't just about me anymore. It's about what we all want. And Cliff kind of takes that to heart too, you know? And I've always loved their relationship. Like, Jane's and Cliff's, and just them hugging one last time is really beautiful, you know? Obviously, he didn't really get to say goodbye to the rest of the team, sadly. But he also did, he's like, yeah, I also didn't want to take away from Rita's moment. So he says his goodbyes. Let's shift over to Larry, who, you know, Larry misses, you know, 104, and it's like, he thinks back to his past love. What wasn't it, Paul, or am I or is that, what was that, one of his children? But his old love, that it's like, right, here I am, I have this long extended life again, but am I going to waste it? Because Rita told him, like, that's the thing about living a long time. There is plenty of love out there in the world to find. It's not like the love stops with me. There's plenty of it out there in the world, so go out there and find it. And him and Key do. It's like, let's find Mr. 104, and Larry finds him, takes him into space, and, you know, reconstitutes him as himself. But he's like, no, aren't we going to be in danger? It's like, no, Keeg will keep us safe and keep everyone else safe. And I feel like I don't, because wasn't the whole point last episode about negative man being like, right, you're so, the negative spirit being like, you're so trapped by your own fear, and also the whole notion about him becoming a son. So because I thought, like, maybe that's how you're going to save the day, or have to stop yourself from going nuclear or whatever, but it's his way of being together with Mr. 104. Like, I think Keeg will create this shell around them, and they can kind of become like this bright sun. I don't know if that's indicative of, right, because Mr. Wonderful would eventually die, and it's like we'll kind of either Keek will keep us in this perpetual state forever of us just being together, or we kind of die together because I get to kind of let out all my radiation without worrying about hurting anyone, and you get to like let go of everything you are, and we're kind of forever kind of stuck in this eternal explosion making this sun. Maybe that's what that's supposed to represent. It feels like it's once again that beautiful tragedy to it where it's like it feels beautiful, but it just also feels like it is an end, but it's also the birth of something new. Jane is trying to find a new place to stay at and runs into Casey, who came here to pick up the spaceship. And I'm sad we didn't get to see Dorothy one last time, because the last time we saw Dorothy wasn't that like episode 9, the Immortimus episode is the last episode we saw her in. But Casey wants to kind of, go on an adventure, might be going a couple months or whatever, and Jane takes this leap of opportunity because now that all that stuff has been resolved for, Kay, I think Kay's finally ready to take this leap, because it is, once again, it isn't just about what Kay want. I mean, it's what they all want. It's what all of Kaleidoscope wants, and it's to take this leap because they all deserve love, and love's come knocking, and they haven't always answered it in particular. But now it's like, yeah, we're all kind of going for this, and so they go off together, and it's kind of sweet to see, like the pairing offs and the couplings. We had that scene between Vic and Rouge where Vic has this whole conversation about, right, he saw last episode, he saw his future, and he knows it's going to be kind of an uphill battle, but he knows like what that future is. Like for him, it's like, this could be the greatest thing that I could be a part of. I could do so much good with that. And even at the school, the guy's like, one of the kids is like, isn't this corny? Like, shouldn't you be out there fighting? But for him, it's like, I could have a greater impact because this next generation could give birth to so much more and help so many more people. I mean, in the time loop of it all, it's like, well, what goes on in this classroom, what's taught in this classroom will help pull me out of the time stream, like it did the last episode. So it's kind of necessary, but it's like, right, the good that can happen of like inspiring the next generation that could end up helping, like, not just fighting bad guys, not just fighting the next bit bad, but also nurturing and teaching the next generation could do more good in the long run. And so that's where Vic is with everything. But even Rouge is kind of conflicted because for her, it's like, she's like, can people be good and bad? Which people are. Like, there is no, like, there's such a gray area with human beings because we are so capable of good and so bad. And it's like for Rouge, for her, it's like she has only seen like the good being around the Doom Patrol. But even Vic is like, this experience has opened my eyes. I see that the line between good and bad can be so thin, and it comes down to the individual to do like what you believe is best. But for Rouge, it's like, how do I know what's best? I don't have the best moral compass. And without this team around, without Rita around, like, how do I know if I'm going too far? Which, Vic is like, I'll be that person for you. Like, as a hero, it's like, I'll step in if I feel like you've gone too far. But you have to make that decision on your own of what you're going to do. Like, you have that free will and everything. And what does she do? She goes to the ant farm. I was like, is she going to start things up here? But it's like, no, she plans on burning it to the ground. Yes, a little villainous, like killing people, but it's still like, yeah, it's in her, but she's also capable of good too. It's like balancing that duality. There is a sadness to that where you see her burning that ant farm because you're like, okay, the ant farm sucks, sure, but she's also killing a whole bunch of people, so she's definitely leaning into her villainous side, but it's villainy for goodness sake. So it's kind of a quite the oxymoron in a sense. But it's like also the joy on her face where it's like, yeah, she's definitely leaning more villainous without anyone to kind of rein her in to do more good. Because it's like those sides of her, that's just her, something she has to deal with in this universe of, because even Rita told her, like, she was part of the Doom Patrol and now she was part of this thing. Sadly, we only got Michelle Gomez. I mean, we got her a lot last season and she officially was a Doom Patroller this season, but sad we only got one, like, full season with her as a Doom Patroller, but still. It's just kind of, once again, just showing you how lost she is. And then we had the situation with Cliff, which there's so much in this that breaks my heart because it's like, right, the Rouge stuff kind of breaks my heart. The Rita stuff is bittersweet. I had to fight. I was like, okay, it's sweet and beautiful, but don't cry. I had to pull back the tears. Because her and, isn't it Marcus? Isn't that home dude's name? Like them being reunited. I think the last time they saw each other he was in that hell situation, right? I'm surprised they never circled back to that. Because I remember, like, the main demon person was, like, played by Ruth O'Connell, if I remember correctly. I think that was that was definitely a season 3 storyline because it revolved around Rouge and Rita. But, like, them kind of being reunited, it's kind of sweet. Her having her happily ever after type of situation. Like, she finally got to rest. Like, this was her duty to kind of lead the team up to this point so they can go out and spread their wings, and it was time for her to kind of go live her life, take her victory lap in some extent and kind of enjoy her happily ever after. Rita had a pretty rough life. I mean, everyone did, but it's time for her to kind of be able to take a break after everything. So, but then we get to the Cliff stuff, and for Cliff, it's like, oh, he's happy to be around Clara and his and Rory. But then, the Parkinson starts kicking in and he's freezing. And I don't remember because I know that came up last season, but I don't remember if him ever actually telling her he was sick. I think this might have been the first time he actually told her he was sick. Do correct me in the comments down below. But, yeah, him saying like, oh, I thought I came here home to live, but I think I came home to die. I was like, wait, are we really doing this? And Cliff is kind of worried, and he's staring at the crystal that Isabel had given him. It's like, oh, you'll know when the time has come. And he's seeing Rory's life. And it is sad how life can repeat itself. Like, we see things kind of playing out the same way. He gets to get like a little montage of Rory's life, and especially how intertwined this car is in that life. And he's obviously not there, but, seeing Rory's life, getting, married, having a family, kind of repeating what Cliff did mistake-wise and leaving, Clara getting sick and dying, and how hard that was. And that eventually led to Rory, I think, rekindling with his daughter who has a grandchild of her own. It's like history repeating itself. But I think it's also supposed to be, like, it's sad in some regards that it repeats itself that way. But I think it's also supposed to be indicative of maybe Rory will have more time to kind of make things right, where it's like Cliff tried to make things right in his second life but wasn't able to. But he wasn't there for his daughter's life, but he got to see, some semblance of it ending. And just that ending where Clara's like, Dad, are you okay? He's like, it's okay. Oh God, what was that line? It was so heartbreaking. He's like, I made it home. And the episode's end. I was like, fuck you. That's how you end it. Not only is that the last scene, that's the last thing out of Cliff's mouth, it is the last fucking line of the episode. I was like, go fuck you in the best way possible. I mean that in like the emotional gut punch. I'm like, I had to fight back the damn tears. I was like, no, you can't. That is sad as shit, homie. I was thinking, I even said it because I recorded my video about saying goodbye, why I love Doom Patrol. It's up there if you want to watch. It's just me just kind of talking about the show in general, what it's about and why I love it and stuff like that. But I had talked about like, oh yeah, I'm sure I had, because obviously I hadn't seen the finale at the time. I was like, dude, most likely it's going to be a situation of, yeah, it's going to go out in weird, wacky Doom Patrol fashion, but I'm sure that I knew it was also going to have some heart and some feel to it, because like I said, I went into it knowing like the Doom Patrol is going to go their separate ways, but homie, dude, this is sad as shit, dude. I wasn't expecting it. Like I said, we got like Rouge kind of going full, but toting that line between villain and hero and just that duality. It's kind of sad to see that. Then you also have the Mr. 104 and Larry situation where I'm like, that seems like that's a death situation, and Cliff straight up dies, and I'm like, because I was like, okay, the Doom Patrol's going their separate way just like the Titans, but eventually they'll be able to come back together at some point in this continuity. that the last person, which is also like one of the last person Cliff interacted with. I mean, he had that moment with everyone on the couch and at Rita's funeral, but sure, it's like the last person he got to see was Jane. That's the last time Jane's gonna get to see Cliff. That is sad as shit, dude. Oh, but it's. I mean, once again, it's that tragic beauty where it's like he got to go home. He got to make things right with his, like, I mean, he's been working on it, but like, he got to go home finally. After all this time, he finally got to go home and be with his grandchild. And it's like, yeah, history might repeat itself, but at least he might not be able to be there, but gets to see that future that Rory's going to have. And that being the last thing he sees, and just knowing like, yeah, fuck me, I'm getting choked up. Like, that being, being able to make it home, dude. God damn it, dude. Why you have to fuck me up like this, Doom Patrol? Why you have to, like come in with all the emotional pain? It's like, once again, I talked about it in that video, like, this show is nothing about trauma and pain, and you just had to get in one last stab in the heart before you left, too. Just had to squeak that in there. You didn't have to do that. It's almost like Preacher's ending, the TV show specifically. It's depressing as shit. You're like, wow, you didn't, especially when you're like, oh, apparently the comic doesn't end there. Like, we don't get that, like, I mean, yeah, it means like, yes, Jesse and, Tulip got to live their life, but it's still kind of sad as shit to see them die. Also, it also ends with Cassidy killing himself. Like, Jesus Christ, like, why do we have to make shit so depressing? Oh my God. It doesn't ruin it or anything. Like I said, it's still a beautiful episode. It's just, it's raw right now. Given some distance, it's still gonna hurt, but there's beauty in it. It's just sad as shit beauty. Like, let's kind of call a spade a spade. There's a silver lining, and like it all coming full circle. I mean, especially because like Cliff was our introduction to everything, and for him, I think wasn't he like our introduction with the Doom Patrol? Like we kind of awoke him with him in his circumstances, starting off as his race car driver, and then like waking up as Robot Man, and so for him to be the final storyline in the episode, and also the final line of the show, feels so befitting. But it's also sad as shit knowing like in this continuity, like you were hoping, like, hey, I mean, the Doom Patrol, I'm sure in the comics has like a different roster and stuff like that. Obviously, like any squad in the DC universe, or even just any superhero comic universe. But I was hoping at least this version of Doom Patrol is like, yeah, we go our separate ways, we get repaired. At least we can get back together every once in a while. And it's like, it's this sad thing where it's, you know what this is like? This is like fucking Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Slight spoilers, but it's been like, what, didn't that end like 2020 and 2021? So it's been like 2 or 3 years. Fuck it. The team goes their separate ways in that show too, and it's like, yeah, the team will never be the same. Like, they've all gone on their respective journeys. The team we've come to know will never be together again. That was kind of the whole point, right? It's kind of the same thing here, where it's like, this team will never be together again until like it's potentially an afterlife situation, which, sure, I guess giving a little bit of a Riverdale ending too. God, dude, it's just, all the sad endings. Like, I don't know, I wanted something a little more uplifting, which, yeah, like I said, there's silver linings to it, and it is beautiful, and it feels like so befitting for it to end this way, but I wanted to kind of end on a more chipper note, especially got their longevity back, too. Oh, dude, come on. I mean, to be fair, not all of them were going to be living for a very long time. Rouge's circumstance, I think maybe it's just her being a shapeshifter. I mean, I think she technically has like longevity, but I think maybe it's just a byproduct of her powers. Obviously, Vic isn't immortal. I wonder what Cyborg circumstances are in the comics about getting old. I mean, obviously, like, Superman ages Kryptonians in general age at a slower rate than humans, and there's other characters that have like longevity circumstances, whether it's like being actually immortal or just like aging slowly in the DC universe. But I've never actually ever witnessed like an old cyborg. Like, I'm sure there is versions of that in the comics, but I've just never come across that. So that's something I'm interested in looking. I'd assume he'd have like a normal human like a situation, but he is part machine, and so how that plays out, I'm sure that comes up in some cyborg storylines. But it's like, yeah, eventually like he would potentially die, but the others would keep going, and it's like they kind of get to. So, once again, this isn't the takeaway from the show in any way. In no way am I being like, oh, this finale was bad. Like I said, I'm super raw about it and very emotional about the ending, but it's still a great ending, a very befitting ending, and it's just a very befitting ending to a great show. And I had talked about this a little bit in my Why I Love Doom Patrol, but I'll say it here too. I'm thankful for the creative team on the show, like everyone in front of the camera and behind the camera, for being a part of this show and bringing this show to life. This is a fantastic show. This will probably go down as, because I try not to pick favorites, but this is a damn good show. This might be my favorite DC show. I don't know. We'll leave it there for now as a big maybe. Because this show has always been wild and wacky, but it's also been so poignant and like so like heartfelt with like the decisions and choices that it's made. And it's very powerful on like not just a comedic level and just like wackiness. It's also like so poetically like dramatic, and so there's so much to take away from this show, and it's such a damn good show. And everyone who's a part of this show, I hope they are proud of being a part of this show, and whatever capacity you played a role in making this show, everyone should be proud, because this is a stellar, amazing show. It is sad as shit to see it come to an end, especially in this way, but it is also, I'm so grateful to have this show. And I talked about this too. This is one of the last DC Universe shows, because obviously we have the Arrowverse already. Technically it came to an end already because of the Flash. Superman and Lois is kind of in its own thing. Yes, it's tied to the Arrowverse, but it's not officially part of the Arrowverse and everything. But that lane of the DC Universe is ended. So has like the other live action, because we have Titans and Doom Patrol started, on the DC Universe app with the Harley Quinn animated series, Stargirl. Yes, it simulcasted like on the CW, but that was like a couple days later. But it was originally just purely going to be like a DC Universe app show, and then Swamp Thing sadly being canceled. But this is the last live action DC Universe show from that era as well. So for it to kind of be over, it just, once again, it feels very befitting considering like we're going into the DCU era, with Superman Legacy and just all the stuff that is happening on the DC front in the future. But like I said, once again, thank you to everyone involved for this show. So I've done enough rambling, and I'm going to end things there. So till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good